Hi, welcome back to my channel. It's Brittany again, and this is video number 2 out of 6. We're going to be talking about gender studies, well, issues in women's studies based on the text that we covered in video number 1 called Global Gender Issues in the New Millennium. This video is going to be based on chapter 2, in which we will discuss gendered lenses on world politics. So first, I'm going to give you a quick little synopsis of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about stereotypes, dichotomies, ideologies, what are lenses, and how we use them, how we approach them, and how they're used in our everyday life, such as when we discuss culture and feminism, which is a very important, pertinent topic to today's economic and political status, as well as this YouTube channel specifically. Okay, so in the first sentence of chapter 2, the chapter is basically asking questions on what it's going to discuss throughout the chapter, so to give you an idea of what to think about before you start reading. So one of the primary questions that stood out to me when reading was, how do stereotypes, dichotomies, and ideologies congeal to produce the meta lens of the power of gender? I feel like that was a very open question. Like, it's a lot in that one question, because each of the terms that it's asking you about have depth within themselves. So I'm going to break those down in the video. But first, in order to do that, I feel like we need to have a concept of what lenses are, because that's the name of the chapter, Gendered Lenses on World Politics. So we need to understand what are these lenses that we're supposed to be looking through to understand gender in politics or in our political world. So in the book's words, in simple terms, lenses focus on our attention selectively. Selective attention is a necessity or is a necessary feature of making sense of any particular subject, paradox, practice, or social order. Because it is not physically possible for any human to see or comprehend anything at once, we rely on conceptual filter lenses that enable us to see some things in greater detail with more accuracy or in better relation to certain other things, which to me makes sense. Basically what that's saying is, when we view things, how I talked about in the last video, we have these intersectionalities. So we have these different perspectives to ourselves, and we decide internally how we are going to look at things through our different intersections and how they're going to affect how we maneuver through life. So it's basically saying how I said in the last video, if I'm a black woman, I'm going to look at things from a female perspective and a black person perspective at the same time, and those are my lenses, and that's how I'll see things. And in certain situations, I'm going to see things more from my take as a woman, and some other things I'm going to see things more as a take from a black person. But at the end of the day, my intersectionality will combine my lenses of both to see them together. And that's basically what these gendered lenses on world politics. The term gendered, it's making an adjective out of gender, because it's a new lens. It's a lens of being open to and acknowledging that gender and sex are two different things, and that is what your gendered lenses will be. And how those affect our world politics are very important and pertinent to current conversation as well, because a lot of our global issues are based on progression of sex and gender equality. So first, to unload the question that we asked at the beginning, I'm going to first talk about what stereotypes are. In the book's words, is simply generalizations that have been stabilized. So what that means is a stereotype is more so like it's a generalization. So what you have a general understanding of something at first glance or first perception. Like, that is just what it is to you, and that's what it's been stabilized to be. Like, that is just a flat line of that. So if I said my top is black, that is my general stereotype understanding, my generalized understanding of what the color black is. My pants are black. That is, my hair is black. That is my general understanding of what black is and my personal understanding of it. Whereas dichotomies, they are, it's kind of hard to explain. It's more so like, let me put it in the book's terms. It's an important sense. Dichotomized terms are not simply independent concepts, whereas A and B, they are defined as oppositional relation to one another, whereas A and not A, if that makes sense. So I'm going to break it down. Basically, it's saying that they are concepts that are formed in relation to one another. So it's not going to be one thing and one thing. It's going to be one thing in relation to this, or this in relation to this. As the text said, A in relation to B, or B in relation to A. There are some common understandings of what some conceptual hierarchical dichotomies produced by the power of gender are, such as being able to have a masculinized or a feminized concept of one thing, whether it be objective versus subjective, or order versus anarchy, mind versus body, culture versus nature. These are all dichotomized instances that are formed around the instance of masculinization versus feminization. So that is like a brief of what a dichotomy is. Whereas ideologies, we tend to use this word a lot because it comes up a lot, but sometimes we don't use it in necessarily the way that it is intended to be in relation to gender understandings. So in the book's terms, it says that ideologies serve the powerful by presenting us with a definition of reality that is false, partial, self-interested, and yet orders our comprehension of the surrounding world. When ideas emerge from ideology, they operate as a form of social control by defining the status quo to be the proper state of affairs. That is a quote that I got from the book, and I felt that it was a strong definition of what ideologies are, because they are very powerful, and the way that they describe them as false or partial and self-interested is because most of our ideologies, they're reflective of ourselves. They're only relative to our understanding of things. So they're relative to our stereotypes, our understandings, our perceptions of things, of whatever it may be, topics, whatever. It says that they operate as a form of social control by defining the status quo. It's our own personal status quo, what we identify as the status quo for ourselves, and it to be the proper state of affairs is proper to us. It's personalized. That's what ideologies are. So some examples that we see in society that people have very, very particular and embedded self ideologies to our culture, and a big one amongst all people are feminism. Even if you're not a feminist, you know what feminist is, you know what the concept is, and you know that this is very important to some people. So first, the book, it describes culture, and it says that everyone is born into a culture, a set of shared ideas about the nature of reality, the nature of right and wrong, evolution, and what is good and desirable, what the nature of the good and desirable versus the bad and non-desirable. That is what the book describes as what culture is, as a broad instance of culture to people in general. However, we know that for different religions, races, even just spiritual organizations, personal organizations, culture means different things to each individual person or group. So in some people's culture is vastly more integrated into their daily lives or into their morals, daily, how they interact with one another, with other people. And that's basically what the book is saying, that is a type of ideology. Your culture is an ideology that you have about yourself. That is how you live as a human being. It's a shared idea. It's in your nature, and it's what you see as innately good or bad. So another one, which is a little bit more not necessarily controversial, but can be controversial, is feminism, which is different lenses based on standpoints on the position, based on, like, feminism can have its own different lenses. There are multiple different types of feminism. Even feminists, which is a ideology in itself, has different perspectives within themselves. So although feminism is a lens, same way your culture is a lens to look at life, there are multiple lenses even within that. And that's why it's hard to sometimes unwrap what feminism is, because there are different lenses for different people. And these standpoints, they're based on your position, but your stance on your relation and understanding of gender and female to male dichotomies. So if you have, goes back to dichotomies, that relation thing, like is 1 to 1 or this, A to B, B to A. So your understanding of feminism is going to be based on your relation to gender, sex, and how your culture and how you were raised, and how your morality will allow you to see the world from a different perspective and through your lens. So it's tackling all of those lenses at once, which makes your gendered lenses on world politics, specifically culture and feminism, so strong.